Hello everyone, how are y'all doing? So it's been a while on my end, like usual, making videos and streaming, but way less follow breaks and everything. So I'm sort of like just trying to sort my life out in a way where like, oh, a puppy, and the whole life changes like that in an instant. So, um, we'll see what happens. Hi Eric, good to see you here. People, if you want to see interviews with me and Eric, tune in to Deciphering My Experience. He's a really great guy, does great experiences like videos with people who have had 20 and back, my labs, and other kind of stuff. It's amazing. So, wow, great to see you here. How are you doing? And yeah, John Roberts, let's review Quinn Hensley, Ali. Wow, a lot of people. It's been a while. I'm sort of like all over the place. I'm working with people, helping them out, sort of learning, teaching, and everything else, but at the same time, working on myself a lot. Sort of sorting things out for myself, what's important, giving myself a priority, learning the whole self love thing. Like what I thought was self love, I did it like on a very gradual, basic level, and I'm like learning, like, oh, I'm gonna take a shower and allow myself to stay as long as I want, even though the dog will howl and bark and like cry and everything. I'm like, I'm just gonna give time for myself, like no one's gonna die. And yeah, just sort of like a lot of things. Learning, looking at things I actually want to do instead of have to do. And actually like sort of like I don't know, like sorting things out, and I just started my business in a way where like for Lithuania, I just open up my shop for the geeky stuff, like everything regarding anime, video games, movies, TV shows, and anything geeky, technology, and all this stuff. It's a start, but I've been working on it for like half a year, investing my own money, and finally, like a little bit at a time, it's open and ready. And now the next step is promotion and trying to sell it to Lithuanian audience. But it's pretty cool. So like it's like a side project, and hopefully it will take off, and I will have more time for spiritual stuff and other thingies. But yeah, other than that, I am here to, I don't know, like answer your questions or give anything I can to you to make your life better one way or the other. But yeah, so there it is. Robert, the Horror Sheet Show, Joseph, I'm Yahweh, Lucas. Awesome, so many people. Okay, so Lister Review is asking, Akvile, what do you think about Michael Newton and in general the regression to between lives thing? It's come with the arc and manipulation us and thing, and how do you explain this? Okay, so Michael Newton in itself, I'm that weird person that has not done enough research. Like for the person I've heard about him, but I have not read his materials, I could not comment anything about him other than that. Oh, I've heard the name. That's it. That aside, the whole thing with in between lives, regression to the between lives thing, the archon manipulation, and other than that, from my perspective, and having the ability to, like, let's say, shift consciousness, get out of body, and even more than that, it's like what I have to say is one thing. What I'm interested in more is lately I've been working with people who have abilities like me, which is amazing. Like remote viewers, energy workers, people that can get out of body and all this stuff. And they too can communicate with the dead. They can see worlds, they can see entities, they can do so much more. And I'm just sort of super excited to work with people alike. And the best thing is that, like, you know, I have my own experience. So from my own experience, it's all belief system territories. And even just now, like I wrapped up a long session with my very friend, but Patricia. You might have seen our videos together, and she was sharing this experience, like how she was like in this church after the person died, and they were doing the whole ceremony there, and she literally saw the person body surrounded with this whole kind of like energetic thing, but it's literally like everyone like from the angelic realm, like a lot of angels and beings, and because that person believed in that, like that Jesus will come and take me and save me, and like I will go to heaven. It's like literally like she was able to tune in and see the whole experience. So like, you know, the whole going and what happens, like death, what happens in between lives and everything, it's all from my perspective, which can like just like subjective. It's all belief system territory. Some people might believe like, oh, there's a grid around Earth, and like Wes Penry said it's gonna limit us, so there's no way I can get out. Oh my god! And so like people freak themselves out. They believe in that, and thus they create reality when they're more limited, and all of a sudden like they're not allowing themselves to leave. And what I have to share, like, oh, Akvile, you're doing the same thing. You're giving us bullshit stories, and now we're the ones believing the crap you're saying, and we're the ones gonna have to create a like negative scenario. Great. You can sort of like, okay, I hear what you're saying, Akvile, but I'm gonna have to create my own like reality. But there's another thing. It's kind of like some people can go to another country and not know its laws, and even if you break the law, you're gonna be guilty. So you don't have to know it, but not knowing the law will not mean that you're like not guilty for breaking it, if that makes sense. Like I don't know if I can explain it normally, but so basically, we talk about soul traps, we talk about the grid and everything else, we talk about so many like entities, archons, blah blah blah. It's there, it exists. It's more like you can know that like, oh well, there are traps that I might encounter, so I do have the knowledge on possibilities of what's out there. But knowing that, I can work on creating my own reality where I'm just going to tune in to what I want to do, to what I want to experience. And so you hear about the Greys, reptilians, and archons, and like the grid around Earth, and soul traps, and everything else, like that all the negative stuff that can happen, that you hear me talk about, and some other people, and you're like, okay, so I have knowledge about every possible bad thing that can happen. Knowing that, it is exactly what I'm gonna turn off, and basically I will go the opposite direction where I'm gonna experience what I want to do. And so you can literally have all those bad things on your radar when you're out of body, see everything, and sort of avoid it. And now all of a sudden it's clear. It's all good. So like let's say I hear about the grid. It is there, cool, but I can literally like, okay, there's a grid that can limit people. I turn it off for myself, no longer a limit. So like I would say like same thing for people. Like the whole, like general regression and like sort of death and going in between lives, if that's what you're asking. It's all our belief system territory. And so like while we're here on Earth, it's best to learn as much as possible to get a good understanding, to know what possibly expect. But at the same time, like the more you learn, the more knowledge you have, it's kind of like you get better. You become stronger. You have more awareness, and all of a sudden sort of empowering yourself, knowing what you're capable of, and sort of like, okay, I know of these possibilities, but I also found out that I'm a godlike being, that my imagination is actually my biggest power, and I can actually create things just like that. And so you leave with that, and you're like, okay, you turn off all the bad things, and you go wherever you want, and that's good. So that's how I would answer your question. Let's review like regarding, death, going in between lives, the archon manipulation, and that thing. So I'm not sure if it actually answered your question, but this is basically how I see it. Oh, so Eric from Deciphering My Experience is saying, I've been using the stuff you and Rich have shared with me. It has been very helpful. This is so good to hear, Eric. I'm super glad. Like, I've been playing around with the whole parse party thing a bit more, and for those who are just tuning in and might not have heard us talk, be sure to go to Deciphering My Experience channel. Rich and I, we have the whole interview and session there. You can find out a whole lot more. But basically, sort of, you look at yourself, and you might have identities, personalities, characteristics that you don't really like. For example, like every day you're like, hey, this is a good day, you're gonna do something. But then as you go, you might find yourself being a little bit lazy. Maybe you're hesitant. Maybe you're like underrating yourself, where you're not allowing to be who you want to be, where you're not allowing yourself to do what you want to do. Maybe you're like, you don't love yourself enough. So you look for these personalities that show up. Like, oh, well, here's a lazy personality I have. Here's this like another, like, I don't know, this personality of me that just keeps on talking and never really getting to the point, or like whatever you might see as an issue within yourself. A personality that you don't really like about yourself, or more like, I wish it wasn't there, I wish I could change it. And so when you have that, it is literally a part of you. And that part can be an infiltrator. Think of an entity, another being, another consciousness that comes within your space and becomes you, pretends to be you. And it's an insider. It has your voice, talks to you, and you can have it all audible and you can hear it, or you can simply have a thought. But now this personality that you talk to, literally, it's gonna cause you some trouble. It's there to help you, maybe. It thinks or presents itself that way, but at the same time it ends up sort of causing trouble where you are not achieving what you want to achieve. There might be tons of things that you want to do, but you're just lazy. Or, like you might have other things like, oh, I'm like unsuccessful, or there's another thing happening, and there's like a lot of those. So with that, like you basically point the personality you have that you don't like. Or same goes with, let's say, that being an entity. So like with that, you can find the negatives, but at the same time, you can locate the personality that you have or wish you would have. For example, that part where, oh, when I was a kid, I was so creative. When I was a kid, I had this massive imagination. I used to see things. I used to get out of body when I was a kid. We have stories of how we were a kid, and like, we were very different. Some of us had like awesome experiences when we were kids, and like we just wish we had the personality back. Like, oh, the humorous part. Like you would just joke around and get any girl you want, or maybe make people laugh, and it's all cool. Like you're spontaneous and everything, and that's all you want. Or maybe you're the person who's like really in communication, and you're always with others. You're always safe. You're always acknowledged, and that makes you feel great. And all of a sudden, it's like today you're kind of different. You might be alone, isolated, ignored by others. You might have lost your sense of humor, your confidence, your trust. And all of a sudden you're like, I don't know, like there's so many things I want to do, but... And with all those limits, we sort of like, And look at those parts we have lost. So literally, the whole idea with this technique is to connect to that part. Whether it is the one like an infiltrator and harming you one way or the other, or kind of making your life a bit harder, or literally the part you have right now. For example, the part of me that's talking right now and expressing and then sharing a story, like the one's more knowledgeable, for example, or the part that we might have lost, which is like visuals or like something else. And so literally you put a label. Like putting labels is not fun for most people, I guess, but it's really good to define something. And I'm gonna get my puppy in, because he wants to join my awesome stream. Come here, pumpkin. Come here. Wait, I'm gonna show you my pumpkin. Pumpkin. He's grown so much. There's my pumpkin. Pumpkin. Yeah, someone wants to bite my face off right now because his teeth are coming out. So here's this little cute pumpkin. Okay. Love this guy. So I'm gonna let him go and have fun. There's a toy. I'm gonna grab my headphones and sort of tune back. So basically, you locate and label the part just so you could understand it. Not to sort of label it or give it something like, oh, you have to be this and limited, but for your understanding. Because more like, some people are like, oh, it's all energy. It could be an entity, but for me it's just energy. And you focus on it being an energy and you're never gonna solve the issue. Because instead of removing something that's causing the issue, you're like, oh, it's just energy, it's just there. I don't know. So literally, once we give it a label, for example, the part that you might have had, the spontaneous, the humorous, the one that can get any girl, the one that's sort of like super expressive, I don't know. So literally, you put a label, you know how to call it, and then you talk to that part. Sort of like, imagine or think of sitting around the campfire, or sitting around the table. And you call that part like, okay, so here's me, here's the other parts. For example, there can be the expressive one, the lazy one, something else, and you sort of give them labels. And I'm literally gonna pull up one little thing. It's funny. A while back, not too long ago, I was translating anime called The Wandering Witch Elena, I think. And on the episode 12, this girl basically goes to this realm to see every possible future. It's like every possible timeline. For example, 5 years ago, there was this event in your life. And you could have made a friend, you could have lost a friend, your friend could have died or something else, like a lot of variations. But some events change your life, and we wonder what would have happened if the event was different. What would be the outcome? So literally in this anime, she gets a lot of versions of herself to meet in a place, and I'm just gonna turn on for all of you to see. Let's see, like, where is it exactly? It's gonna be funny. Um, just a minute, people. Capture window. Let's see if this works. There we go. Turn it off. So this is the anime. Hopefully you're gonna be able to see it. And so literally these girls, this is like one girl, but that one girl sees every possible version of herself meeting around the table, which is funny. Like I was talking about this technique and it just shows up in the anime like, oh, cool. So literally like one girl and she has different versions. For example, the intelligent version, the dumb one, the lazy, the, I don't know, like ghoulish or like slime girl or Russian part of you, whatever. So you're literally like, okay, with that idea, what you're gonna do is like, for example, this is the part of you that's kind of like intelligent, talkative, the one you might have lost in the past that is like, let's say, spontaneous and courageous and trusting and all this stuff. Or you look at parts that's kind of like, I don't know, kind of like tired, exhausted, and like constantly like afraid and worrying, and sort of you sit all of these parts around the table. I'm gonna make it I fucked it up. So you sit all of these parts around the table, and all of a sudden you get them and you talk to them. And literally like some of you can have a conversation, and hopefully you have seen what I showed you, but you can literally have a conversation and sort of like, hey, thank you for coming here. And you tell them like, from your perspective, what might seem to be the problem. Because if you ask like, what's the problem? Everyone will try to define it, but no one can really define it because we have only one perception from what we see and we don't really see the clear picture. So there is no truth, there's your perception. And so when you ask what seems to be the problem, they're more like likely to just talk. And your job when you talk to those parts of yourself is to be the listener. The active, interested, curious listener who's not going to judge, who's not going to be like, oh, you should do this and that. You're not a life coach anymore. No. You're just there to listen, to acknowledge, accept, and that's it. And so like you're talking to part of yourself like, oh, lazy one. Okay, like from your perspective, what seems to be the problem? And the part of you replies like, I don't know, like I just want to chill. I just want to just chill and sit down and watch TV and eat some goodies. But you're always moving and doing something and da-da-da-da-da. And all of a sudden, it's just like, okay, I get a picture. Thank you for sharing that. Next. And you talk to the other part of yourself. For example, the spontaneous humor that you've had. And like, okay, from your perspective, what seems to be the problem? And the spontaneous humor replies, well, I'm always here. It's just that you don't notice me. I can always be in there and talk to people. You just don't go out of your fucking house. You don't communicate to others. And I have no way to show up myself. Well, go on. Please talk to someone so that I could show up and be there. And so literally, as you communicate to those parts, whether it is a part of you or let's say an intruder, an insider, someone who's there against their own free will, like put in your space and all this stuff, you can talk to these parts. You can understand what's going on. Why are they here? And like one of the things, you can give them a permission to leave. Like, hey, you have my permission to leave. I allow you to go. And all of a sudden, it's kind of like taking off a leash on a chain, and all of a sudden they're free with that. So like you understand the issues, you understand yourself better because literally you're getting in touch with other part of yourself, and all of a sudden, you know, you just basically change your personal life. And that's like some of the things I've been applying to myself and other people lately, and it's been working pretty good. Like people are getting good results, and they're sort of like, hey, I can actually hear it, I can actually see it. And so like some have had visuals turned on, some have had other things, and it's pretty cool. So anyway, I did this technique with Rich and also Eric from Deciphering My Experience. If you want to watch the whole thing in detail, tune into his channel, Deciphering My Experience. You'll find our interview and everything and just get more out of it. That being said, I'm gonna zip it and read more comments on what you're saying and answer more questions. Okay, so I'm basically reading people saying hello and everything. And Joseph saying, still contracts doesn't resonate with me. The whole thing about the salesman convincing us sounds like a story. It sounds more like a new age spiritual teaching and a man-made knowledge. Could be. You know, like Joseph, whatever works for you. For me, it's the way I explain the story so that I understand it, and if I was to tell it to a child, I assume that child would understand, like, oh, kid. So in order to explain this big, massive subject that's going all over the place, I'm gonna tell it in a way where here's a salesman, here's you, and he sells you a bad car, and you agree to it, and you had an issue. I explain it that way, and it might be my issue that I cannot explain it in a way where people understand, but at the same time, if it doesn't resonate with you, good for you. Find something that fits your reality, that works for you to make your life better. I just know that for me, the way I understand the whole subject and have been working on myself, my life has changed tremendously. I've had massive wins. And for that, I'm like, hey, it's just one tool in a massive, never-ending arsenal you can have. And if, let's say, soul contract revocation and all this stuff works for me, great. It's a tool I can use. For some, it's like, I don't know, sounds too boring, sounds so weird. And some people like not use it, but you might have other tools. You might listen to some, I don't know, like life coaches. You might listen to someone else, like find some technique. Like people are like, oh, I'm gonna get out of body by drinking beer. Great, if it's a technique for you, if that's your tool you want to use, go for it. Whatever works. Another thing, like I basically like I've had this like wonderful sessions with David. Like he's a great guy. Amazing thing about it, like our connection is that like when we were doing sessions, it's like I don't even start working, or more like he gives me like, okay, here's a target, and I don't even close my eyes to sort of fully tune in, but I get the idea and I already start doing things, and I don't even have to close my eyes. He's already feeling the changes within his body, and for me, like it's very refreshing knowing that my work is actually felt. Like a lot of people feel it, they experience the sudden changes, and I love it. It's just that been lately, or like let's say in the last few months, I've met more people who are disconnected from their feeling and they're more into other things. And if I do things like, no, I haven't felt anything, and like they might see changes in their life pretty soon and all this stuff, but more like to the physical body. Like I've had like a very refreshing thing. So I'm mentioning that because in our like latest session we've been like doing this thing, okay, just like no target, nothing, just connect to consciousness, connect within yourself and see what you find, like without a target, just chill in that blissful mode. And a funny thing for me, it came up like let it be. Like Beatles already wrote a song about it, but it's more like there are like a lot of problems going on, there's a lot of things happening all over the place, and one thing that I have to do for myself is let it be. I don't have to save people. I don't have to go change things. I don't have to go save the world. It's more like, okay. For example, Joseph right now doesn't really, like, soul contract doesn't resonate with him. I think like a month ago I would be like, damn it, I have done a bad job. I'm gonna explain it. I'm gonna try to see if I can help him out. Now it's more like, oh, okay, it doesn't work for you. That's okay. You know, like, I don't have to solve anything. And it's not like I'm not gonna do anything, I'm just gonna chill and watch. It's more like, no, whatever seems important to me, I'm gonna work on it. But I don't have to be the savior anymore, like going after everyone, trying to explain everything. Akvile, why haven't you showed up? Akvile, why haven't you brought up? I don't know. Like, I don't have to sort of talk about absolutely everything, explain everything in detail, and just like, oh, whatever, you're just gonna let it be. So for me, like, I'm finding this very good. In a way where, like, for me, this perspective is there's a whole lot of things going on. And I know that I will not change a lot of them. For example, starving children in Africa and all this stuff. Like, oh, like, there's a genocide that happened, like, time ago. And, like, so many of that. Like, I don't know, like, poachers just killing animals and, like, getting them extinct. I'm not there. I can't change anything. I can talk about it. Cool. But if I have a goal or something I like, something I'm interested in, that's what I'm going to target. But it's not going to be like, oh, I have to solve everything. I'm going to worry about this and that and that. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. It's like, whatever. It's like, just let it be because I have my own thing to do. And once I'm done, bye world, I'm out of here. So like, for me, it's working. And like, I'm actually like really happy because I'm sort of putting myself off the leash, so to speak. I'm allowing myself to have more freedom and stop judging myself. It's like, hey, I'm doing what's good for me. I'm helping people in my own ways. And I'm making massive changes in my own ways. And I'm noticing it and someone else is noticing it. But stop worrying. Stop doing this and that. And for me, like, it's pretty good. So like, I'm winning in life in that way. And I feel massive changes. And like, I don't know, like, so that's my perspective right now. Hello, Didus. Good to see you here, buddy. So, I am Yahweh is asking, Akvile, if consciousness can create everything, is it possible that I create a new species and planet here in 3D universe? And how do I make sure that I reincarnate there to learn and grow there? So, from my perspective, yes, it is possible to create. So, whatever we think of, let's say we're just tuning into that reality. By the quantum physics, they say that reality does not exist until you think of it. So the moment you think of it and the moment you become aware of something, it is the moment you start creating it and manifesting it. So if we were going with quantum physics, and I'm not pro at it, but there's a few things that are like, oh, that resonates. That means that whatever, like our awareness, our consciousness is the creator, and we can manifest it. Now, let's say you focus on like, okay, you have a planet, you have a new species, you have a race, you might be a thinking civilization and everything super detailed with all the knowledge and everything. You just design it the way you want. You create it in your imagination and it's out there. Physically, you can get on a telescope, oh, where is it? Or did I just put it in the Milky Way or somewhere else? And there's a thing between what you create and also your agreements with the collective consciousness. And you have to separate them. There's a line. There is your own universe, your own reality of what you create, and then there's the collective with what you agree with them. Let's say for yourself, you create a world, you create a planet, and everything else is there. The moment you start telling others about it, they're like, no, it's not there. Come on, you can't do it. All of a sudden, their voices will start changing and messing up your reality. And then I'm not saying like keep everything to yourself, but literally like you can work in a sort of design the perfect place for yourself in your head. You can use tools like some people like I don't know, Photoshop. They draw it, they paint it. They have other ways to do it. You get a world out there, and the best thing to do is like literally picture what would it look like, where would it be, what kind of beings, like the details, like really go within it. And the moment you're like, okay, I'm done creating it, and so literally think of the ability to teleport. Think of video games where you use a scroll and then you teleport and you go somewhere, or you step on something and boom, you just go somewhere. So literally with that, if you have ever gotten out of body, or if you have ever dreamed and have had a lucid dream, you can pick up the scroll. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna use that one thing from a video game I saw. Oh, I'm gonna teleport here, and you use a scroll or whatever item you want, or even just like stop everything, focus, and you just shift, and all of a sudden you're somewhere else. And boom, you teleported. And now you are in your own created world because you sort of target your attention to what you have created. And because you know in detail what it looks like, you put yourself there and you're there. And so with that, if you practice when you're out of body, if you practice every day, just sort of like daydreaming and sort of relaxing, like, okay, I'm just going to relax and tune in and go in there. Next thing you know, you're in that world. And you actually consciousness shifted and you're there and you can explore. And I'm just going to say it like, Rich, I think soon he's gonna do the whole thing with contact DET, and each and every one of you, if you have visuals, if you can see stuff, you can be in his group, and he's gonna be the guide, and all of you can actually connect to your wanted ET. And not be the contactee, not be like, oh, the Greys and Reptilians talk to me. No. You're gonna go out there and say, hey, how can I help you? What can I do? Answer me some questions. And all of a sudden, you're not the one that's hearing stuff. You're the one talking, but at the same time, you will have visuals. You might have a full-blown conversation, word to word, so you can actually write down the whole thing. You might learn something. So I know like Rich will be doing that sort of stuff pretty soon. If some of you want to do that, like watch his YouTube videos, check out his channel, go to his website, something like that. Because he's getting it ready and it's going to be pretty cool. So I'm just saying that like if any of you are like more like, oh, there's a world I want to create and how do I get there? He has that. He does groups of guided out of body experience, of guided consciousness shift, and you can literally see your world, be there at the same time, like guided, like talking to ETs. So check it out. That being said, the Andromeda is asking like, how's it going with anime? Depends what you're talking about. If watching it, hardly at all. Like very small amount of time. For me, like I'm watching only the ones that I'm working on. So if I'm translating it or editing it, I'm gonna watch it for the process. But other than that, like it's not where like, oh, I'm a kid, like I'm going to school and I can spend most of my free time watching anime. It's like no more of that. But yeah, it's pretty cool. Like lately, what have I seen? I'm working on a few projects. Like it's called Skate, Kimono Jihan. Like it's about that demon kid and the jobless reincarnation. That's also another one. My Hero Academia season 3, I'm still catching up. So these are like probably the main ones. There's Grappler Baki. And it sounds like a lot, but like, hey, one episode a week. Like I just translated 20 minutes. Woo, all done. So there's that. Yeah. I was sort of like looking forward to watching The Promised Neverland. But I've heard that the whole anime went sideways from manga. And I've read the manga. I've read the manga, and it's like the content it has, the soft disclosure about the demons, the ETs, the human trafficking, and all the other stuff was so damn good that they literally, the anime season went sideways without following the story. So literally it turned into like Stranger Things season 3. Like season 1 of Stranger Things was damn good. It had a really good soft disclosure about what's going on in the world, about the whole MK Ultra thing, about the psychic abilities and all this stuff. And the season 3 is like, oh, let's just sing some songs and like everyone's happy and like, ooh, let's kiss and all this stuff. Like, oh, that's not what I signed up for. So like this is like my experience with Promised Neverland. Like I haven't watched it, but more like I've heard about it, like, oh, okay, I'm not gonna go there. So there's that. So yeah, let's see other questions. Akvile, do you do Reiki yourself? Are you aware that it's possible to pull someone right out of their body with it, and we are powerful human beings? Okay, yeah. So, do I do Reiki? It depends how you describe Reiki. By the label Reiki, I don't call it like, oh, I'm doing Reiki on myself. No. Am I doing energy work on myself? Yes. It's like, okay, I'm just gonna relax and sort of like focus myself, like astral surgeries, call it whatever, my own kind of made up whatever the hell it is. It's kind of like just focusing on my body, like having my own workshop, and I just look at the parts of me that might not be doing it. For example, like right now, I'm a very sensitive to the cold kind of kid, so let's say the dry air and the cold will make my throat hurt, or will kind of like have clogged nostrils, if that's the right way to say it. And basically I'm like, oh, okay, like my throat hurts, so I'm just gonna sort of like close my eyes, for example, picture myself. I can literally have the outline of the human body, or just sort of like have a mirror of myself, and I'm gonna make it all sort of like turn off the human skin and everything else, but more like tune into within the body. For example, focus on the throat, and I'll all of a sudden see like the darker spot in my throat, or somewhere else, like where my body might not be doing good. I will see the darker spots pop up, and I will more like, okay, I'm going to remove all of the darkness, all of the density, sort of getting out of my system. And once that is done, I pretty much sort of like just fill myself with the energy of like, let's say, the love and healing and just like whatever I want it to be. And I close it up, and next thing you know, like, oh, look, I feel much better. My throat doesn't hurt. Boom. Yay. So for me, I'm like, just like, this is my way of doing it. This is my Reiki. I haven't studied it or anything, but whatever I'm doing for myself is working. Am I aware that it's possible to pull someone out of their body? Yeah, I'm done it plenty of times. Yeah, it's easy. Andromeda is asking, how can someone disconnect from the astrals? This is why I like using the term out of body experience instead of astral travel. I view like astral travel, for example, it's like listening to one radio channel. It has infinite, like it has infinite, it's just going to be vast and like never ending, but at the same time it's like it's just the astral of so much, and you are out of body, so you can go astral and so much more than that, and just keep on going, and just you're not limited to the astral, which is why I would like vary it with that. But if you want to disconnect, I don't know, stop going there. What exactly, like, are you connected to the astral that you don't like, or more like, I don't know, simple way is like everything you did to go to the astral, don't do it anymore. Like, for me, like if I start watching movies, I think like the visuals sort of kill it. Like they're so vast. For example, if I watch any kind of movie, I'm there, I'm living it, I'm feeling everything. If it's I don't know, like Lord of the Ring version or whatever, I'm gonna be there in New Zealand walking them out, and it's like, oh, this is so fun. And at the same time, it's more like seeing everything, being in the middle of the war, seeing the orcs and Urhai and all the others, and next thing you know, like, I don't have boobies. So like I overdo it. Like for me it's like an overstimulation, which is why if I stop, I get oobies. If I start watching, it's off. So like for me, like okay, if I want to get out of body, if I want the astral and all this stuff, stop watching it. So I don't know. Just saying. I don't know, like bit of Venom, you're talking about the silver cord and out of body, like out of body being connected to silver cord. Not on my end. I'm all over the place, no limits. So if you have one, good luck taking care of it. I mean, I was asking Akvile, how do I call upon beings? Literally the way you would call your grandma. Hi, grandma. How are you doing? You have an intention. You know who you're talking to. Boom. You call up. It's like people have the hard situation in life and more like, God, please help me. I wish God would fix it. I wish God this and that. And all of a sudden, you're talking to God, not really being, oh my God, I'm talking Jesus. Like for some, like who will say Jesus, that's gonna be cool. But if you're saying God, there's so many out there. They're gonna be like, oh, I'm an entity, but I'm gonna put a label of God and come to show yourself. Hello, kid. How can I help you? And next thing you know, you have this wonderful being coming to help you, and actually you're being fucked up. So a lot of times, people, the way they talk, they don't really have clear intentions. They don't really have the clear focus. And next thing you know, it's more like they're opening doors and inviting anyone and getting more harm than good. So if you want to call upon beings, the first step is to define who exactly. Not just the reptilian, not just the gray or the Andromedan or something else. If you're more like, okay, I'm gonna call on the Pleiadian that I have had contact with in my past life, the Pleiadian that I have worked with, the one that has been helping me, the one that I have trusted for years and years and years, and the one I know that's gonna be there for me all the time. We're like family, we're like the best friends. We're so good, and next thing you know, boom, you have the exact thing. So it's just easy as that. So like just like have great intention, and once you have an intention, once you have the image of who exactly you're talking to, not necessarily like seeing it, but defining it, define clearly, specifically who it is, and then literally start talking. Because a lot of beings that we want to communicate to, telepathic communication works. Even if it's like someone that you love that died, whether it's your cat, your dog, your relative, or someone like, oh, like I've lost my relative like so long ago, like might be my dad. Dad, I don't know, like I miss you. Could you like just come and visit me, just show a sign and all the stuff, and next thing you know, they're there. They're showing up and they're helping out. So in these ways I would say like like once you have the definition and just simply putting like having a thought and sort of streaming it out there, broadcasting it, they're gonna receive it. And then, how do you receive it back? Like, where it's gonna be showing up as your own thoughts, or more like, oh, I just got inspired with this massive idea, wow! And a lot of times we think, like, we thought of it ourselves. Like, sometimes we have being sort of like, hey, there's a thing for you, and you're like, wow, it's coming up. Like, but this literally, like, a lot of these, like, pop up because someone else helps us. But at the same time, like, all of us, each and every one of us are godlike beings. You have all of those abilities. So, like, literally, you're more like, there's a being I want to connect to, you put the intention, and then you allow yourself, like, I'm gonna receive it with my own thoughts. Not, let's say, audible, to not scare myself, like you're sort of sitting, just sort of drinking your tea, and like, hey, James! Like, you're like, oh, fuck, like, who say that? Like, and you're, like, in the middle, in the office, like, working, and all of a sudden, like, everything drops, and, like, you shake it, and, like, fuck. So, with that, it's scary for some people, because it can be, like, too loud. So, literally, it comes in with my own thoughts. You define it, how it's gonna come. Hi. I know I didn't call you. Thank you, though. Just like that. So anyway, like a lot of these beings will show up and just try to talk to you. At the same time, one thing you can do is literally, I'm just gonna take it like this. So you take like your notepad, you take this thing, and you're gonna write down like a letter. For example, hey Dad, I haven't seen you for a while, but I miss you, and I just want you to know that I love you, blah, 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 blah. And you just tell them a message right here on the notepad. Put it in some visible place, like, hey, I wrote your message, please come and read it. And next thing you know, they're there, showing up in your room, reading the message, and showing up in your dream like, hey, son, I haven't seen you for a while, or whatever. So there's that. Um, so that answers part of the question. The other part of the question is, and if I summon a destructive being in my life, will it only affect me or my entire family? Because I don't want people to be sent to the nut house. Well, here's the thing. I would say, depending on the being that you call up, it can affect you and the others. A lot of entities, they jump from one thing to another. A lot of entities, for example, like not necessarily entities. You might talk to a great being. You might talk to a Pleiadian, to some, I don't know, a being you know, if you define it well and if you know exactly who you want to get, and that being might be there to just talk to you, to help you out, to be there for you. And think of like, it's not the best example. If some of you might have seen the anime called Death Note, there's this death god Shinigami called Ryuk, or however you say his name. So basically, only the people that touch the Death Note book can see that guy. Others are more like blind to it. But at the same time, this guy can actually impact others. So it's more like, whoever tunes into it. So if you allow it by your definition, it's more like, yeah, and you can actually engage with other people, yes. If this being you're inviting is actually not good, if it's more malevolent and wishing to harm, then yeah, expect others to experience it one way or the other. Sometimes it's more like it's not gonna be like a poltergeist moving things around your house, but people around you will get icky. All of a sudden, they get more aggressive, they have energy shifts, they have more weird reactions, and next thing you know, like, hey son, I love you, shut the fuck up, and like next thing you know, you get weird reactions, and then sounds like you might have a great relationship with your family, and next thing you know, they turn on you, they hate you, you have arguments, not necessarily just with you, but like with other people. And so like these like relationship interactions and miscommunications and other things will be happening. So like there's a lot of variations. Like I can't vouch for like, oh, every being will be like this. It's just like one of the examples is this, and the others all over the place. Like I can't really say like, if you summon this and it's gonna be like this, then it's gonna happen like this. No. Like, I cannot say that at all. Like, one of the possibilities is this, but there's a whole lot of more possibilities of what can happen. So I'm saying with that. So, I'm gonna tone down a little bit, get something to drink, and answer more questions. Okay, Nika is asking, hi Akvile, can you give me any advice about what to do if there seems like a massive entity attack is happening on me? Doctors don't know what it is happening to me, and I'm not sure where to start while I can. Okay, so first, I would say look at, sort of define what's happening for you. Let's say you might have some weird emotions. You might have physical pain show up. For example, I've had this more like psychic attack, but like literally the psychic attack ended up in having the shoulder pain. And sometimes like I'm doing sessions connecting to people, I'm like, oh, okay, I'm just gonna focus on that, and next thing you know, I'm getting the sharp headache. And the moment I'm like, okay, sharp headache, the source, and I see the source, I see like what it is exactly, I remove it. So like depends what kind of the attacks you're getting. Is it more like people around you, surroundings around you, the work kind of stuff? Or is it more personal? Is it more physical? Like really like define those. And I'm just sort of like look at like, okay, so for example, you have like left knee pain. You have left knee pain and you're like, okay, it's really hard right now, but I'm just gonna sort of relax, focus on my left knee, the pain, and where's it coming from? Where is this source of this pain? Like, why do I get it? And literally the first thought you might get some visuals, and next thing you know, like boom, you get the answer, like, oh, okay, like certain people like have their intentions on me, or like, oh, the entity grabbed me, or like something else, not physical, okay. Various. So like would be great if you write what kind of messing you're experiencing. But let's say it's like if it's with people or something else. Some are like experiencing, how do you say it? Let's say the whole town goes against you. Everyone's like, oh, you're the worst person, like miscommunications, getting isolated, getting hated on, and all this stuff. There's a lot happening. So like literally, like I start with defining it, and then for me it's easy to talk because I have visuals. For me it's like, oh, I see there's an issue, and then I will see, let's say, the core's connected, the entity's connected. I will sort of like just tune in and then have the knowingness or like the visuals and all this stuff. So it's easier in that way, but I would just go with like defining it. What is the problem? Sort of understanding the issue, or like not what is the problem, but what seems to be the problem is the better way to sort of ask it. Because more like, oh, I'm just getting attacked by people. I'm getting ignored. I'm getting, I don't know, like gaslighted or bamboozled or whatever. People are constantly lying to me, and you just basically look at your like life, your surroundings, the patterns, the personality showing up, like literally the whole parse party thing I mentioned in the beginning of the video. You can literally go with, okay, like this is the part that talks to people and like is like that, and you talk to this being. You talk to this being that might sort of shove thoughts in your head or something else, and next thing you know, it's like you redirect it, and boom, it's actually out of your space. Okay, and yeah, like Nick is also mentioning, like it's a physical problem, and my whole skin and the whole body started to break down. Okay, breaking down the skin and the body. I'm just looking at this. I will look at, sometimes it's just assumption. Right now, this is just an assumption, but like literally, you just tune into that, like whatever you might see. And the first focus is like there are beings that will literally try to program the body. Think of like, I don't know, like smart dust, and with all that, our bodies, like let's say the way we talk to other people. Think of every little bacteria, little parasite, little fungus within your body, within your system, being fully conscious. And that part, if you can tune in and you can like literally program your body, sort of like, hey, what happened? Like your body might have been hijacked, and next thing you know, it's like breaking apart. And so sort of you fix that sort of thing with either just talking, sort of like doing energy work, actual surgeries, or like the whole visual work. I told about myself, like how I would do it. Literally, think of a workshop. Like you are in this either meditative state or just like you relax, and create a workshop for yourself. Like whether it is like in some lab or just home or like on the couch or whatever. Like you have all the tools in the world you need. Like you have everything, and you see your own body like there on the table or somewhere else, and you're like, okay, so my body, like the skin is like going over there. Here's some magic goo. I'm gonna spray it all over myself, and that's gonna heal things up. And so you just help yourself out in that way, sort of like having the workshop with infinite tools that you can think of. Just like it's all up to your creativity. But the thing is, like the visual work, your imagination. I think none of us have any idea of how powerful it is. It's more like, yeah, it's just imagination. Some people view it like that. Others, like me, like, damn, your imagination is freaking powerful. But even then, to some extent, like, I might not acknowledge it how powerful freaking it is. You know, like, yay, I know it is. I talk about it all the time, but it might be even way more than I know. And with that, you know, it's just like, you just work with it. At the same time, when they started, like, what might have caused it? Like, it's always, like, the first thing to do is, like, look at your diet and other things. But I go back with, let's say, having a myopia, or let's say having a scoliosis. With those, a lot of times, it's all psychological. More like not necessarily all of it, but people end up suppressing us. People end up like putting us in this kind of cage of shaping us of how we should be, and we're basically going against how we want to be. Like, oh, you have to be like this and this and this, and next thing you know, you put yourself in a cage that you're not fitting in, and you're like sort of deforming, and next thing you know, you have scoliosis. So with the skin breaking apart, like you might have like, oh, the whole world's breaking down, I can't handle it, and you just sort of focus on all the issues, and it shows up on your body. So like literally a lot has to do with how you're perceiving the world, with what's going on around you, with your diet. Like these are like the first things I would look for, but then let's go deeper, like energy work, all the other stuff, you know, like I would mention soul contracts and like whatever, but like even that, like none, there's more to it. So yeah, there's a lot. Hey Fodor, good to see you here too. Fodor, are you looking forward to the new Resident Evil series? Like I think like they're gonna have a movie coming out, but at the same time, a few animated series, just slaughtering the franchise. Or you're probably like looking forward to the new game though. Panda Products is calling. Akvile, what are your thoughts on Panda Products? I don't know, haven't looked it up or anything. Let's see. If we're calling, we're talking about actually cute plushies and, I don't know, coffee cups and whatever. It's cute. But other than that, it would be great if you could define it more. uh, Yggdrasil is asking, Akvile, what do you think of Nazism? And I'll answer you with another question. Um, Yggdrasil, what do you think about the Rothschilds, Bilderbergs, and Bill Gates? Okay, so we're just like reading over the questions and everything else. A bit of Venom, like we talked about getting out of body in the silver cord and asking like if you just sort of conscious shift and everything, like if you don't have a cord, isn't that remote viewing? And I would say the whole thing with, let's say, astral projection, getting out of body, dreaming, lucid dreaming, remote viewing, and every label we put on what we're capable of, I think it's like misleading us from the truth. I don't know the truth, to be honest. But what I know is like, let's say if I focus on something, I'm gonna see it, and it's gonna be as real as possible. If I like, oh, here's my hand, and now I hold an apple. Here's the apple, is kind of a bit greenish and red, and it's pretty cool. And so I will feel the juiciness, I will feel the taste, I feel the smell and everything. You know, like for me, it's like 100% real. And some people are like, okay, just gonna close my eyes or like focus, and boom, they're in another planet. They're like doing something else. And the whole thing with, oh, it's remote viewing. Oh no, your consciousness shifting. Oh no, you're getting out of your body. A lot of words and a lot of confusion. And none of us know what the hell is going on, except that we're seeing everything full blown 100%. We're feeling, hearing, experiencing all this stuff, and it's real as can be. And it's not just remote viewing. For me, like, a lot of those labels, yeah, it's easy to call it something, and then, like, this is what the world describes it to be, this is what the world defines it, so pretty cool, let's just call it that, and remote viewing is this and this is that, and so, like, it cannot be otherwise because it by definition is this. No, fuck definition. Like, it English language, and not just English, a lot of languages in the world here, it's getting in the way. Like, naturally, when you're out there in the multiverse, when you're out of body, when you're remote viewing or whatever the fuck you're doing, or if you're just imagining or visualizing things, all of a sudden, without talking, you get knowledge, you get information. You're not even trying, but you start knowing things. And you're literally like, that's consciousness. You look at yourself, you look at the consciousness, you're the God, and you pull it out of yourself. And that's it. And so, we don't have to like, oh, I'm gonna remote view and, oh fuck, I can't remote view because by definition is this. Fuck definitions. Like, every one of you is capable of so much. It's just that a lot of labels of what we call things is getting in the way. Yeah, getting out of body, you have to see your physical body fall asleep, you have to feel like you're literally getting out and now you're seeing yourself. That's not a body. Fuck out of body. Like, literally, you're here, sitting, or whatever the hell you're doing, you're watching my stream, and you're like, okay, relax. Think of your favorite place in the world. It might be the park. It might be the bench where you have met your girlfriend or boyfriend. It might be that specific place. It might be the perfect restaurant. It might be the beach. It might be the campfire. Think of that one place that you love so much. And for a moment, allow yourself to relax. Let's say, okay, little campfire. You just drove there with the little RV. It's in the hills, there's a little forest out there, mountains, river, and everything. And you're like getting out. It's a little nice view. You have a campfire, you sit down, you have your marshmallows or your wieners or whatever, and you're like, damn, this is so good. And as you're sort of closing your eyes and visualizing that, it's real. You tune into it. Consciousness shift, quantum jumping, outer body, lots of labels to explain one thing. You're there and what you're experiencing is real as can be. And each and every one of you can do that. Absolutely everyone can do that. And if we start putting labels, we just start fucking with our heads. Because like, oh, by definition it's this, and I can't do that, so you start limiting yourself. Fuck the limit. I'm more expressive because it's pissing me off, because I'm seeing how, even I'm, in my own ways, am explaining things that might misguide people. I call it out of body, when everything we're doing is real. You close your eyes, or you are fully open, and you start seeing stuff, you hear stuff, you feel stuff. And it's all real. And the more labels we have, the more we're just sort of misguiding ourselves and limiting, oh, it's by definition is that, so I can't do that, and now I can't get out of body. No, you can. Think of your best place. And boom, you're there. And you see the whole view. And so for me, man, I'm so happy that I can do it. I'm so happy. And I think everyone else, literally, if it's some event in your life that was important or was somewhere more memorable. For some it might be the South Pole. For some it's, for me it's Akvile Park. Even the getting out of the LAX airport and being the first time in America. And I can sort of just put myself there. Wow, I just get out and there's so many different people. And there's the sounds I've never heard before. In America, roads have little kind of bumps, so the cars goes and they go bum 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 bum. And I'm like, whoa, I never heard that before. And so for me it's exciting. So every single sound, the smells, the city, the whole everything, wow. And I'm there. I put myself there. I know what it looks like. I see the bus stop. I see the different cars, and this is so cool. Oh, look, another a license plate. And the thing is, all of you can try it right now. If one of you can have some sort of visuals, find a friend. It's one of you sit down in your house, in your apartment, and just chill and sort of visualize things, and start going outside in the street, reading the license plate of a car that you haven't seen before. And have your friend stand next to that car, on the phone or whatever, and read it off, see if it's correct. And see how many of you consciousness shift, visualize, remote view, whatever the fuck you're doing that we put labels on, you go there and you get it right. And you're doing it for real. It's not just imagination. It's not just fucking label. You're doing it for real. And that for me, it's magic. That is so freaking cool. And every one of you can do that. And I don't know, for me, that's the most exciting thing in the world right now. So with that, we're talking about putting labels, calling it remote viewing, calling it Ubi and whatever. And enough, it's good to define it, or more well, this is what we sort of can understand a little bit, but it's more than that. It's just we're just sort of stepping in our own way. And I've been sort of repeating myself, saying same old stuff. Let's just move on. By the way, James with a massive donation. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, James. Eddie's saying kids are very good at it. Exactly. Today I was talking to my friend Patricia, and she called her kid, and she's like, "Hey, could you close your eyes and look at this?" 100%. He sees it, full blown. He sees it. He doesn't call it out of body. He doesn't call it whatever. He's just seeing stuff, but it's real. For him, it's real. And I'm that's so cool. That's really cool. Also, Eddie is asking, is it possible to vision your own entities, or do they have to have their own form? Or do they have their own form, actually? So, it's both. Sometimes, let's say, if I'm here and I will see an entity, they're already gonna have their own form. I know what they look like. Oh, that's you. And so, I can get rid of them and everything. But other times, for example, I'm looking at within myself. For something, well, there's this personality I don't like. It just keeps showing up and it's getting in my way. pull it out, and then I can visualize them however I want. But because I define them and I give them form, I know who they are, and now I can get rid of them or sort of send them on their own merry way and everything. So it's both. You can envision your own entities if it's better for you to sort of get the idea and either get rid of them or deal with them one way or the other, or they will have their own form, and both for good. Andromeda is saying that he has found out that he's anchored here on Earth because one of his ancestors. That's good to know. So hopefully you're going to be able to do something. Sometimes it's good that you brought it up. A lot of us were living here, and some family trees, for example, will have like, oh well, our family has a reputation, blah blah blah, and sort of they create rules. But now you're born in there and you abide the rules or whatever, or you're sort of connected one way or the other. And some of them might affect you. Not everything, definitely not everything, but some of them might say, oh, we're here on Earth to do our own thing, and let's say they will have a clear mission of why it's important to be on Earth, of why a family is a thing, and everyone's so earthly and so material that next thing you know, it's like the anchor is super connected to Earth that you can't really get out and just be wherever. Bitvenom is also asking, have you seen Mandela Effect? Well, there's a lot of people showing the changes they are experiencing on YouTube. I've seen it myself. Sometimes, it's even I know there has been a tree in this place and now it's gone, and it's not even a mark of cutting it or taking it out. It's just completely gone, as if it never was there. Or the houses, certain names and titles and colors, logos, whatever the hell, a lot. And also Andromeda is commenting about it, that Mandela Effect is caused by CERN. But I would say one of the causes is CERN. We also have, let's say, timeline wars. We also have the whole thing with changing how we're perceiving the world, with the whole, let's say, voice to skull remote neural monitoring, and with the technologies of direct energy technologies and how they can affect us without us knowing about it. It's probably so easy to input fake thoughts and memories that is just over the top. And there's probably tons of other things affecting how we perceive reality. Um, 0923 is asking, have you ever met spirit guides or guides, or have been tested while out of body? I've heard some authors of out-of-body experience books say that they have had those experiences. There's some group of non-physical beings testing humans. There's that thing for myself. I've met, so to speak, guys or people I know, that are sort of familiar to me. Tested, not really, but tested by other side is more let's see what this being is capable of, and if we can get away with that stuff, that happens. There are certain groups that are more just trying to see how you perceive the world, and if they can still mess with you or not, how can they affect your reality or not, and that is a thing. Edwin is asking, do you use the microsleep method to get vibrations? No, haven't tried that, but it's I'm gonna save this question and see if I can look up more information and get it going. Yggdrasil is asking, what religion do you consider yourself? I don't follow any religion. None. It's more I'm just a consciousness within this human body, within this vessel, experiencing this life of label called Akvile. But other than that, I can be out there and be someone else. I can be you, I can be everyone else, and no limits. Let's just go with that. just the consciousness. Okay, Brenda Liv is asking, when I'm in out of body experience, I ask for things and want to go places, but nothing happens. And where I end up is random. Is there a reason I'm not getting answers to my questions while I'm out of body? I would say it, one, if you have any questions, direct it to yourself. If you want to go places, it's not just defining it, more like defining is really good. But other times, I assume, um, let's say you have a place you want to go to. And next thing is like, oh, well, here's a place, like, let's say this world, I'm visualizing it, I have knowledge of it, or just sort of like the intention, and all of a sudden you end up in some other place. Hey, that's not what I wanted. So my assumption would be that you're in the construct, and because you're in the construct, there will be, let's say, a control thing, an implant, or whatever the hell it is that can actually reverse where you're going, or like redirect where you're going, to be more clear. And so you have a target, but you're being sort of redirected to another location. And if that is the cause, I will look for anything that redirects you, that makes you teleport somewhere where you don't want to be. And at the same time, when you're getting out of body, and ask things, I'm always sort of asking things myself. Sort of because I'm the consciousness, like each and every one of you, and consciousness is limitless. It has infinite knowledge if we choose to access it. So you're more like, okay, is there anything I need to know? Is there anything I can learn? What is important and all this stuff? And all of a sudden, the experience you get is the lesson. Is this something that's being shown to you? So for me, I ask this for myself because I'm tuning into my consciousness and I get all the answers. But like, really depends on where you're directing the question. Because like, if you're just sort of like, where am I? But you don't really have a clear target of who you're speaking to. You're just talking. And so that I would sort of like try to direct the question to someone, where it is yourself, your consciousness, or like specific group. Like maybe you have memories of past lives. Maybe you have like no knowledge of some groups. Like, oh, I've read about this group that they're pretty helpful. So specifically, like, I don't know, group blah 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 blah. Could you help me with blah 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 blah? And next thing you know, you might get the answers. Another thing I would look at is possibility of someone blocking, like, receiving. You might get the question and it goes out there, but there's a blockage. For example, the question, like, the answer comes in, but it's like it doesn't go through. You're here, there's some sort of wall, and the answer is here. So it's coming to you, but it gets blocked, it gets sort of like deflected or something, and next thing you know, you don't receive it. So I would also look for energetical things like that might impact you. It's like literally like just with curiosity, looking around for stuff like that might be helpful. So I'm reading through the questions, and at the same time I'm looking at the timing because I'll have to go. So anyway, people, it was fun streaming and talking to you. I'll probably will try to do it more often, as I'm always saying, but we'll see how that goes. I'm actually like very glad that you all tuned in and watched my stream. It's like getting an opportunity to talk. Like when I was coming here, I was like, I don't know, I have no idea what I'm going to talk about, but I'm just going to be here and see if I can give any value. And there's this part, like, part of me that's more like, okay, I have no idea what's going to happen, and I hope I can give anything of service or like any quality stuff. And before I click the screen where you can see my video and everything, like while the music is playing, I'm more like, okay, change the personality, change the beingness that's here, and I'm going to tune into the part of me that has anything I need to say or give, and anything that people would look for that I can, share. And with that, I sort of tune into the beingness, and the next thing you know, like, oh, I might have said something that helps someone. Yay! But at the same time, again, like, thank you all for tuning in, for listening, for being here for me, for letting me talk it out, for supporting my work and all this stuff. And I'll see you in the upcoming streams and